Hey everyone, tonight we embark on a journey to a place that feels oddly familiar, yet remains utterly surreal. A place where the mundane meets the bizarre in the tangled web of banana politics. Imagine yourself drifting into a warm, balmy Caribbean night. The sea breeze carries the thick scent of salt mingled with the sweet, almost intoxicating aroma of overripe bananas. You find yourself standing at the edge of a busy, sun-drenched port where weather-beaten dockworkers haul crates piled high with bright yellow fruit, their muscles straining beneath the weight, sweat mixing with the salty ocean mist. The sky above you bleeds gold, mango, and tangerine as the sun dips below the horizon. Everything looks calm, almost idyllic. But beneath this serene veneer, something quietly absurd, deeply sticky, and relentlessly complex is simmering. A trade war, a power struggle, and a tangled mess of colonial greed, all revolving around one seemingly innocent fruit, the banana. Yes, the humble banana. This isn't just fruit politics. It's a story soaked in sweat, blood, and dollars. It's colonialism wrapped in yellow plastic crates. It's the rise and fall of empires disguised as agricultural ventures. And trust me, this tale isn't for the faint-hearted. You might not be in physical danger, but your mind might just quietly short-circuit trying to untangle the labyrinth of deals, betrayals, and bureaucratic nonsense that underpins this saga. So before you settle in for the ride, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe if you genuinely enjoy these dives into the weird and wonderful. Also, drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is there. I love seeing who's listening, from early risers to late night thinkers, from the future or just winding down their day. Now dim your lights, turn on a fan for that gentle, comforting hum, and let's slip slowly into tonight's journey. You don't start with a grand event or a booming battle cry. No, you begin with a simple wooden crate, a crate full of bananas. It's sometime in the late 19th century, 1870s, maybe 1880s. You're standing on the dusty, sweltering docks of a Caribbean port, Jamaica, Costa Rica, it barely matters. The air is thick with humidity, buzzing with flies, and the distant clamor of men shouting orders. A man in a rumpled suit barks at another man, sunburned and wearing a wide Panama hat. Between them is a battered ledger full of scribbles, numbers, and broken promises. A ship waits at anchor, its hull creaking against the tide. Somewhere about 100,000 bananas are supposed to be ripe by now, but they're not. You lean back against a palm tree, watching it all unfold. Back then, bananas were still an exotic curiosity in North America. They were the imported jazz of the fruit world, strange, foreign, and mysterious. Most people didn't even know how to eat one properly. There were etiquette guides. Yes, actual printed booklets explaining the correct way to consume a banana with a knife and fork. No fingers, absolutely no peeling with your teeth. That was considered utterly uncivilized. But here, in this sun-drenched port, the banana wasn't a novelty. It was serious business. You stroll past a group of laborers unloading huge bunches of bananas onto a wooden conveyor belt. The fruit still hangs heavy and green, firm and waxy, with a faint metallic tang in the air around it. You reach out and touch one. It feels cool, almost slick, but the weight in your hand is undeniable. These bananas hold power, the power to shape borders, economies, and even governments. Your eyes wander toward the rail yard. Trains are being loaded not with coal, not with steel, but with bananas destined for faraway markets. Enter the shadowy figure of miner Cooper Keith. You remember hearing stories about him. a sly combination of entrepreneur, engineer, and tropical land baron. Keith is building railroads through the jungles of Costa Rica, carving paths where none existed before. But trains need cargo to run profitably, and so Keith plants banana groves alongside the tracks, turning fields into gold mines. His strategy is brilliant and chillingly modern: vertical integration. He doesn't just grow bananas, he controls the land, the labor, the transportation, the shipping, and the markets. Farming isn't just agriculture here, it's empire building. You follow Keith's slow, calculating steps as he surveys rows of young banana plants. He's always calculating, marrying into political families, winning government favors, twisting laws to suit his needs, bending entire Central American economies into his vision of efficiency and profit, all in the pursuit of faster, fresher fruit. By the time Keith's railroad and banana interests merge with the Boston Fruit Company in 1899, a giant is born, the United Fruit Company. And from that moment on, bananas cease to be merely bananas. They become something else entirely. Weapons, tools of influence, the currency of power. You float above the Caribbean landscape, like a ghost surveying a grand chessboard. Below, a patchwork of banana zones, rail lines snaking through jungles, shipping lanes cutting across the ocean to New Orleans, Charleston, Boston. Company towns dot the landscape, small, controlled worlds marked by factory whistles and company stores. Labor uprisings flare here and there, marked on the map like tiny explosions. Flags flutter, marking presidents who were friendly to the company and others who met untimely ends. United Fruit never formally conquers a country. They don't raise armies, but through a mix of economic muscle, political manipulation, and yes, outright bribery and violence, they control nations just the same. You drift over Honduras in 1911. The air is thick with tension. The government is weak, the economy fragile. United Fruit circles like a patient vulture. With a bit of funding, some well-timed arms shipments, and political machinations, a new regime rises, friendly to United Fruit's interests, generous with land grants, tax breaks, and monopoly shipping rights. The workers, they earn just enough to keep going, often less. They live under the company's watchful eye, their rights limited, their voices stifled. Organizing is forbidden, strikes are crushed, complaints disappear into the tropical heat. But you're not rushing this. You float slowly, savoring the moment. Every so often the wind carries a strange mix of smells: rotting banana skins, diesel fumes, faint gunpowder. History simmers here. You pause at a United Fruit Company hospital. It's pristine, painted bright white, and eerily quiet. Nurses move silently, administering outdated medicine. The care is real but conditional. You must be a worker and obey the rules. No dissent allowed. You smile quietly to yourself. It's all so neat. Almost too neat. The company issues its own currency, runs schools, operates courts. They have slogans in Spanish plastered everywhere. El progreso es para todos. Progress is for everyone. But the fine print whispers a different story. Progress is for everyone, only if you work for us, only if you stay silent, only if you never forget who really holds the power. You wander slowly down a narrow dirt path, squeezed between towering rows of banana plants. Their broad, waxy leaves arch overhead, brushing your shoulders like sleepy curtains rustling in a soft breeze. The air is thick and humid, a constant companion here. There's a rhythm to this place, a slow but relentless pulse that marks each day, the morning harvest when workers move swiftly through the green corridors, the midday loading of heavy crates onto clattering trucks, the afternoon waiting, a quiet, watchful pause before the cycle begins anew. The bananas themselves seem almost too heavy for their stems, drooping in clusters like golden bunches of sun-warmed treasure. Yet the heat presses down harder than the fruit's weight, wrapping the land in a damp, oppressive shroud. And all around, unseen but ever-present, united fruit watches, silent and invisible. Their gaze is sharp and calculating, an empire built on shadows and commerce, stretching across these fields and beyond. Somewhere nearby, a sharp voice rises in argument, an overseer, a manager, disputing quotas or shipment deadlines. There's talk of a delayed shipment bound for Mobile, Alabama, but the words wash over you without sinking in. You move in slow motion now, each step softened by layers of damp earth and time itself, as though you're wading through a river of history. Then suddenly you are no longer just walking the path, you are transported. The year is 1928. You stand in Cienega, Colombia, a town just waking in a dense, misty haze. Fog rolls off the sea, curling through streets and alleyways. The banana harvest lies stacked and ready on rickety train cars, arranged like rows of sleeping soldiers poised for deployment. Yet the workers aren't moving. They are striking, quiet but resolute. Their demands are simple, human: payment in cash instead of company scrip, a 6-day work week instead of endless labor, decent sanitation and clean drinking water. Nothing extraordinary, just the basic dignity anyone might expect. But United Fruit is annoyed, irritated by what they call disruption. The government, too, grows uneasy. Too many workers stopped. Too much potential for unrest. What if this spark spreads? What if the fragile order breaks down? You find yourself sitting on a bench in the town square, the sounds of the morning buzzing faintly around you. A church bell tolls somewhere distant, echoing over cobblestones worn smooth by decades. Children crouch in the dust, flicking marbles between their fingers. Mothers stir coffee over small fires, their faces shadowed and thoughtful. And then the soldiers arrive. The violence doesn't come suddenly. It creeps in like a storm gathering at the horizon. Rumors ripple through the crowd. Tension thickens the air. Then, on December 6th, it breaks. The Colombian army opens fire into the gathered crowd. Bullets tear through flesh and air. The plaza falls silent. Blood stains the cobblestones, now slick with rain and tears. No one will ever know the true number of those killed. Some whisper a few dozen. Others say thousands. United Fruit's official reports speak almost nothing. A deliberate erasure. Across the ocean in the United States, news trickles out vaguely, like a murmur drowned beneath breakfast chatter. Bananas remain on supermarket shelves. Life goes on. And you yourself sit quietly with this memory, letting it settle like a thick fog in your chest. The weight of it presses down, heavy and uncomfortable. Then slowly it eases like steam fading from a fogged window pane. You inhale deeply. You exhale. History doesn't pause, not even for fruit. Time swirls and shifts again. You find yourself in a high-ceilinged boardroom somewhere in Boston, 1932. The air smells of cigar smoke and polished dark wood. Around the table sit United Fruits executives, their faces tight with ambition and calculation. They are plotting something new, not just the expansion of plantations, but the conquest of minds. Bananas must become irresistible. And so marketing is born. Billboards bloom across cities. Songs and jingles flood the airwaves. Parades celebrating the humble banana wind through towns. Bananas become nature's perfect food, a cure-all whispered by doctors and sung by housewives alike. They fight fatigue, ease digestion, boost energy. Mothers mash them into baby food, confident they are nurturing health. Advertisements glow with promise. A smiling housewife, a radiant child, the slogan ringing clear. A banana a day keeps fatigue away. It works. Across America, bananas become a sensation. They're affordable yet exotic, sweet but accessible, everywhere, stacked in pyramids on grocers' windows, spilling over wooden crates, slipping into lunchboxes. You watch an old-timey grocer carefully stacking a pyramid of bananas. One slips and topples. He sighs, resettles the fruit with practiced hands. It happens often, but the bananas remain a staple of everyday life. Yet behind this golden facade, a shadow lurks. Panama disease. You recall this crisis with a sinking heart. The banana that first conquered the world's tables was not the one you eat today. It was the Gros Michel, large, sweet, and resilient, with a thick skin that could survive ocean voyages. It dominated plantations and markets alike, the pride of United Fruit. But Gros Michel had a fatal flaw. A soil fungus, Fusarium oxysporum, crept silently beneath the earth. Once it infected the soil, it was impossible to remove. You hover over sickly fields where banana trees droop like melting candles. Leaves turn yellow, curl in despair. The fruit never ripens. You watch helplessly as workers set fire to entire rows of trees, desperate to halt the disease's spread. It's a losing battle. Within decades, the Gros Michel all but disappears from commercial production. Not extinct, but too vulnerable to continue farming at scale. United Fruit finds a replacement, the Cavendish, smaller, less flavorful, more delicate, but resistant to this particular strain of fungus. You peel one now, slow and deliberate. It's a little mealy, but still sweet. A quiet compromise, carrying the invisible weight of loss and monoculture. The Cavendish fills grocery shelves. The ads shift. The public adapts. You drift again. It's Guatemala, 1954. Another chapter, another upheaval. President Jacobo Arbenz is determined to modernize his country. Land reform, infrastructure, redistribution. He offers to buy unused United Fruit land to distribute to struggling farmers, but he uses the company's own undervalued tax assessments to price the land fairly. United Fruit panics. They unleash a public relations blitz, hire slick PR firms, paint Arbenz as a Soviet puppet in the grips of communism. They feed stories to U.S. newspapers, stoke Cold War fears, lobby the Eisenhower administration. Communism becomes the real threat, not bananas. The CIA steps in. Operation PBSU says. The name rings cruelly ironic. You stand in a dense jungle, watching planes droning overhead drop leaflets filled with false news, claims of rebel victories, warnings of chaos, psychological warfare designed to topple a government without direct conflict. It works. Arbenz resigns, flees. A military junta takes control. For decades, Guatemala is plunged into violence, repression, and civil war. But the bananas, they keep coming, on time, uninterrupted. You float in silence. The coups, the contracts, the sweetness tinged with suffering all soak into your bone. The decades spin forward to the 1980s. United Fruit is long gone, but its legacy lives on in a softer guise. Chiquita, a friendlier face. The lady in the fruit hat dances across television screens, smiling, singing. The brand polishes its history like a gem. Eco-friendly plantations, valued workers, happy bananas. But beneath the cheerful veneer, much remains the same. You stand still, looking out over fields that ripple in the heat, leaves shaking gently in the wind. History stretches before you, endless and tangled. The story of bananas is a story of power, of labor, of profit, and above all of people caught in its tide. You breathe again, slower this time. The path winds onward. It's the 1990s now, and you find yourself walking through a modern banana plantation in Ecuador, the new epicenter of banana exports. Ecuador has risen swiftly to become the world's leading banana supplier, a title once held by other regions. The landscape feels familiar, almost timeless. Endless rows of Cavendish banana trees stretch out under the tropical sun, their giant leaves rustling softly in the humid breeze. Thin, translucent plastic bags are tied carefully around heavy green fruit bunches to protect them from insects and disease. The air smells of earth, fruit, and faint traces of chemicals. Dirt paths, wide enough to accommodate the steady flow of trucks and tractors, weave through the plantation, connecting fields to packing stations and loading docks. But something has undeniably changed here. There's a new word whispered among the palm leaves and in the humid air, a word that echoes far beyond these fields: globalization. The banana trade has expanded further than anyone imagined. Giants like Chiquita, Dole, and Del Monte, names that once sounded cheerful and benign, now dominate the global banana market, controlling not just production but shipping, marketing, and retail distribution worldwide. Behind their glossy, friendly logos lie layers of economic power, influence, and complexity that ripple through these plantations and the lives of those who work them. You pause beside a small cluster of workers huddled under the shade of a corrugated tin roof, escaping the oppressive midday heat. Their faces are weathered, their hands marked by toil. One man talks quietly about persistent skin rashes that have plagued him since the last spraying. Another laments the persistent cough his young son developed after inhaling pesticide fumes in their home village. A woman, wearing a tired smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes, describes the exhausting 8-hour shift she spent spraying fungicides without gloves or protective gear. You listen, your heart heavy with the unspoken burdens behind these words. There's another word drifting in the humid breeze now: fungicide. To keep bananas looking pristine for the global market, entire fields are doused weekly with chemicals, fungicides designed to combat the relentless threat of disease. Planes buzz overhead like mechanical bees, coating leaves, fruit, and workers alike in a fine chemical mist. This is no act of malice, it is routine industrial necessity, and perhaps that is what makes it so insidious, the normalized acceptance of danger hidden beneath the sheen of progress. You continue walking. Soon you find yourself inside a cavernous warehouse. Here, bananas are inspected and sorted with clinical precision. Each bunch is judged on size, color, and perfection. Any fruit deemed too bent, too small, or too ripe is cast aside, discarded, or relegated to less profitable uses. The acceptable bananas are boxed in neat rows, sealed tightly, and prepared for an epic journey spanning thousands of miles across oceans and continents. You follow the path of one particular box. It moves steadily northward, passing customs checkpoints, loaded onto massive ships rocking on the waves, then onto trucks rumbling down highways, finally arriving on the polished shelves of grocery stores far from these fields. Eventually, it ends up in the kitchen of a suburban apartment in Munich. A teenage girl, distracted by her phone and headphones, slices the banana into a smoothie without a second thought. She never wonders where it came from. She doesn't need to. You wonder for her. Back in Ecuador, another story quietly unfolds, one of hope amid hardship. A movement is stirring, slowly gaining momentum. Fair trade. You are there at the genesis of the first certifications, aimed at ensuring that banana growers receive decent wages, safer working conditions, and protections against exploitation. The goals are noble, the progress painstakingly slow. Some plantations earn the seal of approval, others fall short or resist change. Supermarkets waver in their commitments. Consumers stare blankly at labels and logos, unsure what fair trade truly means. How is it different from organic or ethically sourced? You lean against a fruit stand in Copenhagen, reading a chalkboard sign, bananas, 32 cents each. Fair trade bananas, 47 cents. You watch shoppers decide. Most reach for the cheaper fruit without hesitation. A few glance at the fair trade label, intrigued but uncertain. Fewer still understand the real cost hidden behind the price difference, the invisible toll on human lives and the environment. That's the paradox of it all, isn't it? The cheaper the banana, the more likely it is that someone else somewhere far away has paid a heavy price. But you keep walking. The scene shifts. The calendar turns. It's now the 2000s. A new threat rises ominously from the soil beneath these plantations. Fusarium tropical race 4, better known as TR4, a virulent strain of Panama disease, creeps through the ground. Unlike past versions, this strain overcomes the Cavendish banana's genetic immunity. It kills swiftly and silently, just as it did with the Gros Michel bananas decades ago. Plantations panic. Scientists scramble for solutions. Whispers spread rumors of a banana apocalypse. One powerful industry magnate mutters grimly, "This could be the end of bananas as we know them." You pause. You try to imagine a world without bananas, a fruit so simple, so familiar, yet now so fragile. Tiro 4 spreads slowly but relentlessly from Asia to Africa, then to Latin America. Quarantine zones are established, fields are sealed off like crime scenes, but the fungus does not rush. It waits patiently underground, invisible and unstoppable. It's 2015. You find yourself on a research farm in the Philippines. Scientists toil under the hot sun, testing hybrid banana strains, crossbreeding new varieties in the hope they might withstand the fungus. One cultivar tastes oddly like apples, another is bitter and unpalatable. One shows promise but spoils too quickly on long shipping routes. You sit on a bench nearby as a weary researcher sighs, jotting notes into his clipboard. "We might have to teach people to like new bananas," he says quietly. "Or maybe just let the banana as we know it go." The wind stirs the banana leaves around you. The ground beneath feels warm and alive, still holding on to stories yet untold. A new thread of history emerges. The Banana Wars. Not a conflict over fruit or farming, but a real trade war between the United States and the European Union. It's 1993. The EU pushes to grant preferential trade access to former Caribbean colonies, small banana producers struggling to compete on the global stage. The US objects vehemently. Why? Because such moves threaten the dominance of American companies like Chiquita in the European market. The dispute escalates quickly. The World Trade Organization steps in. Lawsuits fly across courtrooms. Tariffs rise and fall like tides. Europe argues for protecting vulnerable economies. The US argues for open markets and free trade. Bananas sit idle in crates, caught in the crossfire. You stand in the marble lobby of a Geneva trade summit. Men in suits sip espresso, debating bananas with deadly seriousness. One diplomat shrugs dismissively. "It sets just fruit." Another snaps back. "No, it sets policy. It sets history. It sets leverage." Eventually, a compromise is hammered out. But beneath the handshake, resentment simmers. The world is learning a hard truth. Even something as simple as a banana carries with it complex baggage, economic, political, and human. You drift through time again, through international conferences, corporate boardrooms, and documentaries scored with dramatic piano music. One film exposes rampant deforestation for banana plantations. Another reveals the grim realities of labor exploitation. Yet another questions the long-term sustainability of relying on a single banana variety. You find yourself in a packed auditorium at a TED Talk. A young agricultural scientist takes the stage, brimming with energy. "We need banana biodiversity," she proclaims. "Thousands of edible banana varieties exist, yet we rely on just one commercially, the Cavendish." You applaud, moved by her passion. You nod, silently agreeing. You wonder why humanity ever narrowed its fruit choices to a single variety, vulnerable and monocultural. You think back to that first crate of bananas in the 1870s, the men arguing under the harsh sun, the moldy, rejected fruit piled high. So much has changed, and yet, somehow, so much remains the same. You're standing in the heart of a banana ghost town now. The cracked earth beneath your feet is mottled with patches of stubborn grass and weeds pushing through forgotten cracks in old concrete. Abandoned rail tracks, once gleaming with purpose, snake their way aimlessly through thick undergrowth, nature reclaiming what man once seized. Rusted train wheels lean precariously against the crumbling walls of warehouses, their iron bones groaning softly in the humid Caribbean breeze. Vines crawl up the sides of what was once the company store, their green fingers clutching faded advertisements and broken windows as if trying to hold on to a memory long past. The air is heavy with an eerie stillness, like a breath held for 100 years, suspended in time between boom and bust, hope and ruin. This place was once alive, vibrant, a booming port on the Caribbean coast of Honduras. Hundreds of workers labored here daily, sweat mixing with the salt air as thousands of crates were loaded onto ships destined for distant markets. Banana shipments were so massive that the docks would sag ever so slightly under the weight, groaning like ancient beasts bowed beneath their own bounty. The air buzzed with activity, voices blending with the cries of seagulls and the clang of metal. Every inch of this town thrummed with purpose, a testament to human endeavor and the power of fruit. Now there sits only parrots. The empire moved on, as empires do. The soil grew tired, poisoned perhaps by years of relentless monoculture. Maybe the disease came, creeping like a shadow through the plantations. Or maybe the fickle winds of politics shifted, toppling alliances and promises. The town itself doesn't remember the exact reason anymore. All it knows is that the bananas left, and so did everything else. The laughter, the labor, the livelihoods vanished like mist in the morning sun. You find yourself sitting on a broken bench beneath the collapsing clock tower that once marked the heart of this place. The clock's hands have long stopped moving, frozen at a forgotten hour, and time here doesn't pass. It just settles, heavy and unmoving, like dust on forgotten memories. Of course, bananas are still everywhere, in grocery aisles, in lunchboxes, in smoothie bars, but the sprawling plantations and bustling docks that once fed the world have given way to something quieter, leaner, digital. You imagine the systems behind the scenes now, rows of servers humming softly in temperature-controlled rooms, their blinking lights, the pulse of a new era. These machines are the new banana managers running algorithms that track ripeness, shipments, delivery schedules, and consumer habits with precision and cold efficiency. Somewhere far away, a drone hovers above a plantation, scanning leaves with infrared eyes, searching for signs of blight or pestilence. A scientist in a crisp white lab coat clicks through a cascade of colorful graphs on a glowing screen. She speaks with calm curiosity. "We might not need bananas in the future," she says softly. "We could just synthesize the flavor. No plantations, no soil, no spoilage." You stare at her, caught between disbelief and resignation. It's not offensive, exactly, just anticlimactic. To think that entire governments were toppled, villages uprooted, empires built over something that might someday be replaced by 3D printed banana-shaped gummies. History is strange that way. It gives, it takes, and it repeats, often without fanfare or ceremony. You walk now through the hall of forgotten bananas. Not real, of course, just a dreamscape conjured by memory and imagination. The names linger in the air, each carrying its own tale. Gros Michel, once the king of the market, wiped out by Panama disease. Lacatan, bright and sweet, favored in the Philippines. Prada Anon, the Brazilian favorite. Senorita, blue Java, the ice cream banana that tastes like vanilla custard. Each banana a vessel of stories, empires, and losses. You peel one carefully in this dream world. It tastes like vanilla ice cream, creamy and strange. You laugh softly, surprised. You didn't know a banana could taste like that. That's the trouble with monoculture. You realize it narrows the story, flattening the rich diversity of experience into a single uniform narrative. And tonight, you've heard many stories. You close your eyes and imagine yourself as a banana worker in the 1940s. You wake before dawn, the sky still heavy with stars. You drink black coffee, strong and bitter, pull on your mud-caked boots, and march out into a vast field where the banana leaves whisper secrets you can almost understand but never quite grasp. You smell the earth, ripe with sweat and hope. Then you imagine a U.S. executive in the 1950s. He's in a smoky office, cigar burning low in the ashtray. His eyes scan a map littered with pins and notes, each one a move in a geopolitical chess game. He wonders how to explain the Guatemalan situation to Congress without uttering the word coup, carefully crafting the narrative that will ripple through history. Then you imagine yourself now in this quiet room, wrapped in a blanket, eyes heavy with fatigue, the soft hum of a fan brushing past your ears. On the kitchen counter, a single banana browns slowly, its skin turning mottled with age. Everything feels connected. The trade wars, the protest songs, the pesticide drift settling on nearby villages, the fruit bowls in luxury hotels, the glossy marketing jingles, the pesticide lawsuits buried deep in dusty court dockets, all threads woven into a tapestry too complex for one person to unravel. You drift deeper, farther from the present, to the edges where climate change threatens every monoculture on Earth, where new fungal strains creep through roots and leaves like silent assassins, where consumers demand organic and fair but balk at paying more. You wander through a cooperative farm somewhere in the Caribbean. It's smaller, less uniform, but the soil is alive and rich. The bananas aren't perfectly identical, but they shine with a rough, natural beauty. There's laughter here, soft, genuine, rare in this tale of loss and greed. A farmer holds up a double banana, twisted and wild, mutant, he grins. You smile back, fascinated by its oddity. It's weird, yes, but somehow beautiful. You ask him quietly, "Will bananas survive?" He shrugs, eyes steady. "Maybe, but if they don't us, something else will." And you think, maybe that set's okay. You walk backward now, retracing the winding path of history. Back through steamships churning through Caribbean waters. Back through whispered rumors of coups and upheaval. Back through villages built on fruit money and human sweat. Back to the very first bunch shipped north in 1804, reportedly brought from Cuba to New York, unripe, green, and strange. People didn't know what to make of them. Some threw them away. Others were enchanted. It began that simply. You walk once more through the misty banana fields, alone this time. No managers, no politics, no pipelines, just the soft rustle of leaves overhead, whispering like the pages of an ancient ledger being turned slowly. And then, silence. You stop. You sit beneath the tallest banana plant, the moon a soft sliver in the sky, casting pale light on the scene. For the first time in this entire story, you feel still. You close your eyes. And sleep comes, slowly, gently, like the ripening of a banana, like the turning of an empire, like the fading memory of a trade war that once seemed to matter so much. And as you sit there beneath the waning moonlight, the world seems to hold its breath with you. The echoes of the past settle softly into the night, stories folding into silence like the last pages of a well-worn book. You realize that the banana, this humble fruit so often taken for granted, carries within it the weight of histories of lives lived and lost, of empires risen and fallen. In its quiet way, the banana tells a story far bigger than itself. a story about connection, about change, about resilience. It reminds you that everything is intertwined: the soil and the sky, the worker and the executive, the past and the future. The ghost town, the data centers, the co-op farms, they are all chapters in one long, complicated tale. And like the fruit itself, that story will continue to ripen, to transform, to fade, and to be reborn. You rise slowly, feeling the cool night air on your skin. The world outside this moment will keep turning, as it always does. But here in this quiet place between memory and dream, you carry a new understanding, one that lingers like the sweet aftertaste of a perfectly ripe banana. And maybe that sip's enough. For now,